Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. It's a struggle on this side to make sure that I don't start with a good afternoon, and in 2 minutes' time, I will be forced to start with a good afternoon, and that will really be poor. Welcome to the 49th Annual General Meeting of the Association of Advertising Agencies of Nigeria. We apologize that we are starting a bit late. I will not bore you with the usual excuses and the time-worn phrases like it's not in our nature. Truth is, we're about 30 minutes late, but like we get promised every time we fly, we'll try to make it up and make sure you land on time. I'll like to start by introducing everyone here today. Members of the Association of Advertising Agencies of Nigeria, led by our chairman. Sorry, he has been doing so much that sometimes we forget that it's just a small association of advertising agencies. I speak of our president, Mr. Steve Babeko, and I want to remind that Ekpe is still part of ECO, so you have authority here in some extended fashion. I also wish to introduce a member of the Board of Trustees who is also chairman of this event, of this occasion, Mr. Lulu Akinwumi. Welcome, sir. When I saw Mr. Akinwumi at the door, I referred to him as Your Excellency. He probably didn't understand why. It's because in these days of Christian or Muslim or Muslim-Christian tickets, everyone is potentially an excellency, depending on the, and I know he's a very strong Christian, and there are still a few candidates who are still out there hunting for a vice. And he's eminently qualified. I'm one of his ardent followers on Facebook, and I know that even if he doesn't know it, one of our parties, we're looking for a Christian vice, and please, we will approach you soon. We have a representative of the governor of Lagos State with us, Mr. Adeshegun Ogundeji, Director of Strategy, Ministry of Information and Strategy. Please, where are you, sir? Welcome, sir. We await the arrival of Princess Sura Olayemi Anima Shaun, who is the executive chairman of Ekpe local government. We still await her arrival. Okay, she'll send a rep. Okay, please. And we have some of our speakers. Sorry, I await the name of the representative of the chairman of the local government. Some of our speakers are here with us. Some are joining us online. Sorry, ma. Welcome, ma. Yes, thank you. Mr. Ni Yusuf, one of our speakers, has joined us. Is he here? Welcome, sir. One of the earliest to arrive, Mr. David Okeme, is the Executive Director of System Specs. Welcome. Sorry, Mr. Yusuf is Managing Partner of Veraki Africa. Sorry if I didn't introduce you properly. Mr. Oluakomu, President and CEO of OPay Nigeria, has been online and waiting, and I'm sure as soon as we're ready, he's going to be the first to speak. We still expect Mr. Adetayo Bamiduro, CEO of Max Nigeria, and Mrs. Juliet Ehimwen Chiazo, Google Country Manager, who promised to join us as we move ahead. Let's get down to business then. We'll start by inviting let me preamble this. In political consciousness, some of us who are politically conscious, religion has never been this important towards an election. It has always been important, but it has never been on the front burner as much as it is now. So that makes us think religiously when we have, to, have an event like this. So I spent time doing a small research as I often do, reading the Bible, not as well as Ogalulu would, but peripherally. And I introduced our president, who is as powerful as Samson, as wise as Solomon, and as patient as Job. Please, ladies and gentlemen, I invite Mr. Steve Babeko to welcome us to the 49th Annual General Meeting of the AAAN.
Thank you, Sir Jenkins Salumono, Esquire. Good afternoon, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. I think we are officially in the PM now. I'm so delighted to have you here. Welcome to the 49th Annual General Meeting of the Association of Advertising Agencies of Nigeria, the AAAN. The Executive Governor of Lagos State, His Excellency Governor Babajide Sanwo-Olu, ably represented. The Chairman, Ekpe Local Government, Lagos State, also represented. The Chairman of Board of Trustees, Sir Steve Omojafo. The Chairman of the 49th Annual General Meeting, Mr. Lulu Akiumi. You're welcome, sir. The distinguished Vice President of the Association of Advertising Agencies of Nigeria, AAAN, Mr. Jenkins Salumono, Esquire. Members of the Executive Board of AAAN, past presidents, presidents of Advertising Sectoral Group, and please permit me to break off script here for a moment. I see in the building President Tunji Adeyinka of X-Man. Please, can you, a round of applause for him, please. President Femi Adelusi of MIPAN, the President of MIPAN. Another round of applause for the gentleman. Thank you so much for taking time out of your busy schedule to join us this afternoon. Senior practitioners, members of the press, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. I'm very delighted to welcome you all to the 49th Annual General Meeting of our great association. In spite of the myriad of challenges ranging from macroeconomic downturn, high inflation, and insecurity that have negatively impacted businesses, our registered attendance rate for this AGM is about 20% higher than last year, so a round of applause for us. This shows the total commitment of our distinguished members to move this great association forward. And I think this deserves another round of applause. It's not for nothing that this speech is titled, Following Our North Star. 2 years ago, when the current executive board was given the responsibility of leading our association, it was clear to us that to move forward, we had to go back to the fundamentals as designed by the founding fathers of this great association. Because, like the saying goes, to really know where you're going, you have to know where you're coming from. I will be presenting a comprehensive report of the stewardship of the current executive board at our business session later tomorrow, but permit me to give you an executive summary. 1, we wanted increased visibility for the AAAN. I think you can say check, promise kept. We wanted enhanced relationship with allied sectoral groups with the presence of the president of MEPAN and that of Exman, and apologies from the president of AAAN. You can say check, promise kept. We wanted diversity, equity, and inclusion, especially closing the gender gap for women in the leadership cadre. I think the representative of women in the executive board went up by about 10%, if I'm correct. So you can say check, promise kept. We wanted renovation of the secretariat, and from all of the images and optics you see of the areas of interest in the secretariat, you can also say check, promise kept. We wanted to get the Advertising Academy off the ground with what we've done in partnership with the Henley Business School. Definitely a big check, promise kept. In terms of diversity, we partnered with the global association, with a global association called the On Stereotype Alliance, set up by the UN Women to fight against harmful gender stereotypes in communication and advertising, thereby reducing all of the stereotypes that we normally see in our communication. AAAN today is a partner agency of this global association. So you can say, check, promise kept on DEI. The truth is, it's been our privilege to serve this great association. We realize that there's so much more to do, which is why we are here to seek your mandate to continue for another 2 years. With your kind permission, I would like to do that. As we start the countdown to our 50th anniversary, which will be happening in 2023, let us also remember the significance of 2023 at the national level. Let's all get our PVCs and not just vote, but ensure that our votes are counted. In conclusion, the theme of the 49th AGM speaks to the power of technology and the new world order. I have no doubt that the speakers and panelists will do justice to this topic. Personally, I'm convinced that technology will give our imaginations bigger wings to fly going into the future. I thank you all for your attention, and I wish us a very fruitful deliberation. Thank you so much.
I remind us that the theme of this year's AGM is the New World Order, Technology as a Game Changer. If you noticed, we had to do some technological changes, so I apologize for the break in transmission. The next speaker, our chairman, the chairman of this occasion, is someone I personally love listening to. If he will oblige you, please follow him on Facebook. When you're a bit confused about national issues, go to his page. If you're smart, the things will get clearer. If you're not so smart, you even get a bit more confused. Please permit me to invite a member of the Board of Trustees of our association, a former president of our association, a former chairman of the APCON Council, Mr. Lulu Akinwumi. Please, a round of applause for him. Your Excellency, sir.
Thank you for all these introductions. I was just asking him how I would pay him for the very, very lavish introductions. The president of AAAN and the executive members, the representative of the governor of Lagos State, the chairman of the local government where we are, fellows of the profession, and everybody else, please permit me about the protocol. First, I'd like to thank the President in Council for inviting me to chair this aspect of the event. And I'd also like to use the opportunity to congratulate all of us on the event of this AGM. I'll tell you why we need to congratulate ourselves. Within the global economy, it's been extremely challenging. You all know, we're all players in it. And especially for marketing communication organizations, it's been particularly so. And the fact that we can gather here, and I hear that the attendance this year is even higher than last year's event, then we really need to congratulate ourselves and also thank God. I have just 2 or 3 minutes for the speech I'm going to make, but I like the theme very, very much. The New World Order, Technology as a Game Changer. Let me tell you a very short story. It's not a story. When I was APCON chairman, we had an event at the Sheraton, and you all know Mr. I.S. Moemeke, the late I.S. Moemeke, the former doyen of Nigerian advertising. We managed to bring him. He had been ill. In actual fact, he just came back from the UK, but he said he was going to attend. So he came into our venue in Sheraton, and he sat, he listened, he didn't say a word. When he was leaving, I was seeing him off to his car. And he said, Lolu, tell me, was that advertising you people were discussing there? I said, yes, sir. Why? You know, once your boss, always your boss. I thought maybe something was wrong. I said, why, sir? He said, I didn't understand a single word you people were saying. I said, well, of course, I had to be very diplomatic. I made him feel at home, but, you know, what I'm trying to say is things continue to move so rapidly. And the only way even someone like me can catch up is simply because I'm a part-time lecturer at the Pan-Atlantic University. Otherwise, things move so quickly, you really need to run to catch up. And I was going through some documents about the future of advertising, the role that technology is going to play and all that, looking at some statistics that in 2022, for example, 80% of ad process will be totally automated globally, and that video will continue to present such amazing opportunities for our profession. The business is going to be, of course, more immersive because of the device we all carry, the phone. It's going to be more personal, it's going to be more disruptive, and it's going to be better targeted. You know, literally speaking, clients can locate each and every one of us here and know when to send a message to us, at what time, what type of message, and all that. We are there already. It's not that we are going to get there. I get messages and I wonder how they are able to target me so, you know, so closely. And of course, more budgets will go on experiential and so on and so forth. And that is at the global level. But coming back home, as I round up, the opportunities are there. But inevitably, the challenges are also there. 3 days ago, if you all followed the news, we got really bad news. And 3 years ago, we had predicted this was going to happen. And it is bad news indeed. And what is the bad news? In the last quarter, I think the country made about 1.8, 1.9 trillion. But for the first time, we spent more money servicing our debts, giving us a deficit of 340 billion. It is the easiest way to get to where Sri Lanka is. And so it's a situation that is so cloudy, even the government doesn't want to talk about it. Yes, we can still borrow so that our clients can produce, so that we can be in business and all that. But borrowing will not solve our problem. There are problems that are fundamental, and I'm hoping that at the business session, not here, business session will be able to talk about them, what is going to happen. The skills are there. People here are intelligent. They've been trained. You know so much. But does the operating environment give us the leeway to practice and make a decent profit and gain as we go about this? I'm hoping there'll be an opportunity to discuss all of those tomorrow. Having said that, I'd like to congratulate each and every one of us again. We've come a long way. We've done so many things. We are not giving up. You know, we trust in this economy. We have faith in this economy. We keep investing in it with the little that is available to us. And I'm hoping that we'll leave this place at the end of this session fully empowered and assured, and more hopeful that the country will still have a lot to offer each and every one of us. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Forgive me, I failed to recognize the team from Ekpe local government, Honorable Khadijat Ayon, and who is the special advisor to the chairman, and Mr. Akobada Ahmed. Forgive me if I didn't get that completely correctly. Forgive me also if I skipped him. I should have introduced him earlier. This is Lagos State, but this is Ekpe. And we have one of our very senior practitioners here. I was just looking at the program, and I like fish, and I heard as he's hosting us later in the evening, and I just remembered that if I don't recognize him properly, I might not get my due, in the evening. So please, a round of applause for Mr. Tunde Tani, explicit. Welcome, sir. Thank you very much for all you have done to make us comfortable here, and also what you promised to do later in the evening. We're going to move a little bit. A few things have changed. The Honorable Minister, considering what the chairman of the occasion said earlier, is a bit busier these days, so he's only going to be joining us tomorrow. So his speech and that of the AAAN registrar, we are moving to tomorrow as part of our activities tomorrow. So we're going to start with our lead speaker. Lead not because what he's saying is more important. Everybody, all the speakers have something important to say, but because he is the one who is speaking to us online. So we're going to start by listening to the presentation of the President's co-CEO of OPay Nigeria, Mr. Olu Akomu. Technology team, are we ready?
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you, MC. Thank you, President. Can you hear me?
We can hear you.
Hello. Okay. Yeah. Thank you, MC. Thank you, President of AAAN and Chairman of the occasion, Mr. Kilme. A lot of friends and colleagues in advertising. My time is very short, to present, to just talk briefly about 10 minutes, to just share thoughts about the topic you have given me. Thank you for inviting me. I'm not going to give a kind of PowerPoint presentation. I'll be speaking extemporaneously from my talking points. And I hope I can get to relate some of the topic to how it affects the advertising industry particularly, so that over the next 10 minutes, the topic of discussion is not just very abstract. How does this issue of how advertising is, how the new world order, the technology as a game changer is directly affects advertising particularly. I'll be focusing on digital technology particularly because the technology that is more important today is the digital technology. And interestingly, listening to Mr. Akiwumi when he was starting, he was talking about certain things which I probably will highlight more in the course of my short 10 minutes presentation. So the first thing I'd like to talk about is that digital technology significantly crashes transaction costs of business. And the greatest impact of digital technology on business and society is how it has crashed and it has continued to crash the cost of transactions, sometimes to something like 5% of its previous cost in the analog world. In fact, in some instances, digital technology has crashed cost to nearly zero. So in relating to the issue of technology as a game changer, I'm taking it from the economics of technology itself and the whole concept of how digital technology crashes transaction cost of business and the implication it will have for the clients that we serve, for our own business and advertising, and for the clients that we serve particularly. So there are about 3 or 4 different types of transactional cost of business from economics. One is the cost of information search, the cost of searching for information, and the cost of matching buyers and sellers. Digital technology significantly has crashed in the world of digital today. The cost of information search and the cost of searching and matching buyers and sellers. One of the big things about advertising, from where we used to come from, there used to be a saying that, advertising, 50% of advertising is wasted but 50% of it works. There's some saying like that, but we do not know the 50% of advertising that is wasted. Therefore, we have to spend 100% of the money. One of the things I'll be talking to you about is how this issue of information search, a much more efficient targeting of matching of buyers and sellers, significantly challenges the old notion of advertising that wastes 50% of its advertising cost from the client perspective. The second thing about transaction cost is the cost of bargaining and negotiation, which is also being significantly crashed because of digital technology. We see that a lot today in terms of e-commerce and a lot of tech businesses that are getting into several industries, from hoteling to entertainment. Because of bargaining and negotiation is significantly crashing. If you look at what it would take for you, for example, to listen to the music of a Davido, to hire him through a Spotify or an Apple computer and pay very little, or through your Netflix, you can watch so many. So the cost of bargaining and negotiation is really crashed, sometimes even approaching zero. Then cost of contract and enforcement in the area of digital is crashing. Monitoring cost is crashing. The cost of order fulfillment is crashing. So these areas are the areas in which technology is significantly crashing transaction costs, and it has very wide implications for business. So the implications for business are in two key areas. One is that it is radically changing the economics of those who innovate in 2 areas. First, in terms of the efficiency of business, radically changing cost of business. You can do far more for less today, giving a business advantage to those who use digital technology. And this area of efficiency, we call incremental innovation. The second area in terms of digital technology is the disruption of new business models, disruption of business through new business model, with costs of transactions significantly crashing to nearly zero in some instances, massively. A lot of the historically excluded populations or markets where historical traditional incumbent industries thought were not markets that we could serve, and now could not be made profitable through new business model like this that digital technology enables. So we see that a lot today in things like banking, in hotel, in transportation, in entertainment, in films, the kind of markets, there's a whole lot of population of excluded people who are not part of the whole traditional market that digital today has enabled us to bring to market, and is typically changing the size of industries today. So we see that a lot in banking. We see that a lot in things like hoteling. We see that a lot in things like transportation. A lot of more people cannot afford to be served through digital technology and, of course, through new business model. So the boundaries of industries are radically changing and being redefined. The other thing, of course, is that whereas in the past, when you are an equipment player or you are an old advertising company, for example, there's what we call the cost of legacy technology. It takes a lot to set up the technology of a business. So this cost of legacy technology, the cost of setting it up, used to be an advantage for an incumbent. But what's interesting today with digital technology is that the cost of legacy technology that used to be an advantage to incumbents as barriers to entry for young upstarts is now turning into a burden for the old incumbent companies. It makes them more institutionally rigid. They are less agile. They are not flexible, unlike young upstarts who do not have the legacy of the rigid technology that old industries or old companies used to have. So the kind of things that we are seeing today in financial services, where banks, for example, are struggling to innovate compared to fintech, particularly, will happen The same pattern is going to happen in advertising and marketing communications. Where you see players like OPE, for example, where, for example, players like OPE, through a point of sales technology like a POS, everything that you want to do in a branch that you build for 40, 50 million, that's the cost of the building, plus maybe 50 million naira for the cost of the land, can now be done on a point of sales terminal. That is how massively the cost of transaction is crashing. And a lot of things can even be done on the mobile phone. So today, we see what players like OP has done with agency banking, going to where banks cannot go, bringing a large portion of the population that were excluded into financial services. We see, for example, a company like Paystack. Before, if you want to do business online, you have to be a large corporation. Companies like Paystack, for example, created a business that served a lot of the excluded SMEs in Nigeria, who can now have their own online gateway payment technology. We used to be the exclusive preserve of the Dangotes of this world, of the Unilevers of this world. A whole lot of SMEs, through players like OP, through players like Paystack, can now do online payment collections, and radically changes the nature of their business in terms of the concept of excluded markets that are now being served as a major game changer by technology. And some of these technologies, some of which were mentioned by the chairman, Mr. Akumi, include mobility. Mobility means no more physical boundaries to where transaction could happen. In banking, for example, it's now said that banking is no longer a place where a bank is no longer a place where I want to go, but what I want to do, because I can do my banking anywhere. So banking is no longer a place because of mobility. It's what I can do anywhere. It's what I can do anywhere that I go. I take my bank with me wherever I go. Then the second kind of technology that's important for us to just a couple of our lives is cloud technology. Cloud technology means the whole of the physical infrastructure that you used to set up in terms of servers. Anybody who has been in the back office of tech companies, of the old tech company, you see large server room. You probably will hire like a warehouse where you put servers. And the cost of building those things, carrying them, layering the shelves of servers on top of themselves, the logistics of building them, importing them, has been radically nearly brought to like 10% of what it used to cost through concept of cloud technology. Cloud technology essentially means you do not need to have those things yourself anymore. Somebody is hosting those things for you in the cloud. And all you need to do is to rent a space in the cloud for everything that you want to do. What this means essentially is that a young upstart can make the cost of good technology variable. Before, maybe you need to spend like 100 million to set up your server. Now today, if you have a few millions, you start with what you have. And all you have to do is subscribe to a space on the cloud, and you can start your business. So the entry barrier that incumbents used to have, that used to be a major barrier to entry for young upstart, is being crashed virtually to nothing by cloud technology. And the fact that access to this technology is variable means that you scale it as you go along. Therefore, even a young company can be profitable very early through things like cloud technology. The other one, of course, is artificial intelligence and machine learning, for example, which is crashing technology costs. And of course, the other one is geolocation and mobility. I just wanted to highlight these four things because they are the things which you see around in many things that we'll talk about. Now, so what does this mean for advertising? AAAN have traditionally served large corporations in Nigeria. That's why ad agencies tend to be located in Ikeja, serving the manufacturing industry historically. And when the service industry came on the island, AAAN and a lot of his members were serving the telcos and the banks. But SMEs in Nigeria and across the world have been largely excluded from professional advertising services. The hard industry cost structure excludes a large portion of the business community. Formal advertising services is only for large corporations and corporations that are going to be large. This market is being of now, just as we are seeing in banking, just as we are seeing in entertainment, where a whole lot of the excluded markets are now being served through new cost models that technology enables. A whole lot, while advertising, AAAN and the traditional incumbents are serving the MTNs of this world, the Dangotes of this world, the NKs of this world. New business models are being created to provide advertising services to a whole lot of smaller businesses that are not traditionally served by is that those who are serving these businesses they don't even know they are doing advertising. They are creative people, they are young people who are doing a lot of things on their phone. The phone today is as powerful as a computer of the IBM computer of 10, 15 years ago. People can shoot a movie on a powerful mobile phone, and the movie and the creative and the quality of the ad will still be fairly good. In fact, why advertising people, one of the things, we'll say we want to go to South Africa to go and shoot a commercial. 70% with these young creative upstarts who do not even know they are doing advertising, they can produce a Coca-Cola, 70% of Coca-Cola quality ad at 30% of its traditional cost through technology that is now much more accessible today. And that is radically going to challenge the nature of what we call advertising practice and who is competing with us. The competitor that we have may no longer be between Insight and SO&U, or Insight or Insight or Prima Garnet. It might be the competition that we are talking to, that we are going to contact, that is redefining the space, are going to be young upstarts who may not even be advertising practitioners, but they also have an advantage because they're also grounded in digital media. Therefore, the nature of advertising, how it is going to be practiced, how it's going to be challenged, as you discuss this thing, I think it's important for us to look at how in the next few years, in fact, as of now, how this whole advertising practice itself is changing. So one of the things I want to leave with you is that the old pace and the pay stacks of ad industry are coming. In fact, they are knocking at your door if they are not here already. Then, just in conclusion, just 1 or 2 more minutes, how are some of these things affecting some of your clients? One of the things I want to just highlight is just some few months ago, the Unilever CMO announced at an advertising conference that she was changed. Her title was being changed from Chief Marketing Officer to Chief Digital Commercial Officer. If this is happening at the icon of marketing practice like Unilever, it has very big implications. And the reason that she gave is that the concept and the practice of marketing itself, the way we used to know it, is changing. The traditional boundaries of marketing and channels that used to be distinct in the way we used to know are getting blurred by things like digital and technology. Therefore, it has very wide implications. The concept of marketing as commercial has become very important. Another important pattern we should note, as from the client side, which I found very interesting, is that people in places like telecoms are increasingly no longer traditional marketers. If you look at the place like MTN today, if you look at the US today, a lot of people that we call CMOs today are not people that stand for marketing. They are typically engineers or people on finance. I don't want to fight it, that they don't know what they are doing, but it is working. There's something that is happening, and that's because we're in a new era of accountability and performance marketing. Because digital technology makes performance and the measurement of transaction effectiveness and transaction marketing are measurable. Because you can measure things much smarter than we used to do. So the concept of an advertising, a marketing communications that cannot be made accountable, but if I spend 1 naira, what do I get back, is going to be an era, something of the past. So what I'd like to leave with you is that in an era of more efficient information search and matching of buyers and sellers, what is the role of advertising? Allows you advertising to define itself. In fact, that's very similar to the kind of things Mr. Akin was talking about. Let me repeat that. In an era of more efficient information search, of matching of buyers and sellers, enabled by digital technology, must I spend 100 million naira on television advertising, where I know 50% of it is not going to reach my target market? This is the kind of ways in which technology will make your clients to challenge you in the advertising industry. The guys, like I said, the new type of CMOs who are coming to market today are chief marketing officers, chief commercial officers, are people from engineering. And many of them are bringing quantitative logic of performance marketing to solve marketing problems. There's no more dichotomy between communications and channels. If it works, if communication works, there must be a commensurate measurable effect in terms of customer numbers, accountability, and performance marketing. Traditional marketing people, including advertising agencies that used to serve them, typically used to fumble in technology industries because we tend not to be numbers driven. We are not very commercial. We love the sexiness of marketing communication and of creativity, but we do not want to take responsibility of marketing as an investment, where we are going to be challenged in the board to say, if I spend 1 naira, if I spend 50 million naira, if I spend 10 naira per customer. These are the kind of questions in the boardroom today enabled by digital technology in marketing. So how would the traditional ad industry communicate with this new type of engineering-minded chief marketing officer, which is now going to be the order of the day, enabled by digital technology today? So in conclusion, I want to congratulate you for your conference and say to you that you should prepare for disruption if you are not yet already been disrupted. The market communication world order is changing. And let me repeat my sentence again, which I've quoted, which I've said earlier, that in an era of more efficient information search, of matching of buyers and sellers through digital technology, what is the role of advertising? How should advertising redefine itself in this new context? Thank you very much, and thank you for...
Thank you very much, Mr. Akomo. You're still there. We're tweaking this program in such a, as we go, as so to say, because we know you have to leave. We're going to take 2 questions, if there are any, or 2 comments, because Mr. Akomo has to leave. Happily, we have the other speakers here, and I'm a bit worried too, because when you were speaking, 1 or 2 of them, they were scribbling furiously, smiling, so I think we're going to even get more benefit down the line, even if you leave us. But if we have any questions, do we have any questions, any comments for Mr. Akomo before he leaves? None? Or we save it for later, and I don't know if to be excited or a bit worried about some of what you said, because basically you're telling those of us here who were used to, spreading messages and hoping that it's like using a big net, that these days you have to use if you're into fishing, the net will no longer work. You have to use a hook because you have to target exactly who you're looking for. And I dare say procuring a net is more expensive than buying a hook. And it means less money for us. I'm not sure that is what we want to hear, but you're telling us the truth anyway. But thank you very much, Mr. Akomo. We hope to continue this engagement. We know you have to leave. And if we have any questions.
Sorry, MC, if I could just respond to that. Sorry, MC, let me just, because that's a very important question you raised. It does not imply that I did not bring a bad news. It does not mean that there is less money to be made. It means there is money to be made in a new way. And the question is, how do we think of making money in a new way? A new type of advertising company business model that is much more digital oriented, that is much more performance driven, that will deliver new type of values to clients, that clients will pay for. I think that's what it means, because their new values will be created. The question is whether AAAN or the traditional incumbent advertising practitioners, just like the banks, are going to be part of it. Just like the Netflix of this world today are very big. They have created new medium form of entertainment compared to the traditional, I'm going to a film house or I'm going to make a CD. How are we going to transform ourselves to the Netflix of advertising industry? I think those are the kind of questions, that's the kind of hard questions that I would like to challenge us to think through, because there will still be a lot of money to be made. The question of who will make it, whether it's going to be AAAN or new types of people who do not even know that they are doing advertising, who are outside, who are not members of this association. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, and thank you everybody.
More hard work required. it's not going to be as simple as it used to be. Thank you very much, Mr. Akomo, and have a great day. Thank you for joining us and for your patience. While Mr. Akomo was speaking, in walked Honorable Oyedun Adenike, SSA Chieftaincy and Religious Matters to the Executive Chairperson of the local government. Welcome, Ma. And also, we wish to welcome the future of our business, some students of the Mass Communication Department of the Lagos State University. Please, a round of applause for them. Can you guys stand for a minute? Thank you very much. Welcome. Thank you for finding time. I was impressed two of them were taking this. Please, Mr. Kamo has pointed out, it doesn't mean there will be no advertising. It's just that we need to approach it in a very different way. We are still in business. I expect that the chairperson of the local government has a few remarks. I don't know who exactly is making those remarks on our behalf. Okay, please welcome Honorable Khadijat Ayan, please.
Good afternoon, the distinguished chairladies and chairman. I appreciate you all. I was sent through the executive chairman of Ekpe local government that she's proud of you, and he said he seriously thank everybody for impacting on technologies to the people of Ekpe, and kudos to you to choose Ekpe as a chapter in the whole Lagos state. One more time, and I'm Honorable Daya Tayo, a special advisor on environment matters. And the chairman is still on the way. She will join us soonest. Thank you, and welcome.
Thank you very much, Ma. We still expect the chairman, if she does come, we will take a few words from her. Is it she, I believe? Yes, if she does come, she will speak to us. At this time, please, let's welcome Mr. Adeshegun Ogundeji, who is here representing the Executive Governor of Lagos State, Mr. Babajide Sanwo-Olu. Please, a round of applause, please, for him.
The President, Association of Advertising Agencies of Nigeria, Mr. Steve Babeko. I listened to him with rapt attention, and I was impressed by his scorecards as he was reading them out. And having left AAAN for 2 years during the reign of Mr. Babajide Olusola Sanwo-Olu, who is also a doer, I think he must have learned a lot from the governor. The chairman of the 49th AGM Congress, Mr. Lulu Akinwumi, the chairman of Ekpe local government, Princess Sura Olayemi Anemashaun, as represented by her team, chairman of the Board of Trustees, Sir Steve Omojafo, and members of the Board of Directors, speakers and panelists, distinguished members of AAAN, gentlemen of the press, mass communication students of the Lagos State University here present, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. I say good afternoon to you all. I bring good tidings from the governor of Lagos State, who is unavoidably absent at this event. He would have loved to be here, but there are so many state matters that are demanding his personal attention. This is no less important, but somehow this has to be delegated. I think you will pardon the governor for that. I will go to his address, and he says, I welcome you all to the Center of Excellence on behalf of the government and good people of Lagos State. It is my pleasure to be here with you as the host governor. When I say host governor, is Mr. Babajide Olusola Sanwo-Olu, Mr. Governor that is speaking, no, not me. As the host governor of the 49th Annual General Meeting / Congress of the Association of Advertising Agencies of Nigeria, and to have the opportunity to benefit from the wealth of knowledge and experience that will be shared on the theme of this Congress, the new order, the new world order, technology as a game changer. I am sure that it will be a very rewarding time. Let me warmly welcome the Honorable Minister for Information and Culture, Mr. Lai Mohammed, and management of the ministry, both federal and state, as well as the eminent speakers who will be sharing knowledge and experience during this annual general meeting. Advertising in Nigeria has grown from the earliest beginning of using town criers to announce availability of goods and services, and evolved to that of billboards, newspapers, magazines, and just jingles on TV, radio, to become a big industry in Nigeria. It is very important in the economy of the nation because it serves as a source of information about goods and services and also persuades consumers to patronize the advertised goods and services. The advent of the internet and the social media gave birth to a new world order that has created an easier way to bring wider variety of goods and services from beyond our borders to a wider range of audiences and transformed the advertising landscape to what it is today. There is still a lot of ground to be covered and more growth to be achieved. That is why the theme for this Congress is most appreciated. And I know that the array of speakers at this Congress will do justice to it. I'm sure that we'll all agree that our earlier speaker, I think Mr. Akomo, did justice. I thank you. In recognition of the constantly evolving new world order, which is largely driven by innovation and technology, it is very clear that any organization that wishes to be relevant in the new world order must embrace change by deploying appropriate technology to enhance its operational efficiency and productivity. I am not oblivious of the fact that for us to take optimum advantage of the opportunity offered by technology, we must invest in the provision of new and upgrading of existing infrastructure that will support efficient and more reliable internet connectivity. Our administration in Lagos State places high premium on technology, and this is exemplified in the education and technology pillar of our themes agenda. We have made modest progress in this regard with a number of initiatives and projects, such as the ongoing laying of 6,000-kilometer fiber optic cables to enable higher quality and more efficient internet services, as well as creating the enabling environment for private sector participation in the provision of technology, enabling infrastructure, participation in provision of technology enabling infrastructure. An example of the numerous private initiatives in the ICT space is the Equinox cable system, which we celebrated its landing in April this year here in Lagos. The infrastructure will deliver 20 times as much network capacity as any of the existing systems serving Nigeria. This means much faster internet speeds, reduced cost, which the speaker made allusion to, and greater access for our people. I congratulate the President and members of AAAN for keeping faith with the vision of the founders of the association, and wish you success in the coming years as you move to build the legacy of advertising in Nigeria. Once again, I welcome the keynote speaker, the Honorable Minister for Information and Culture, who I learned will be coming tomorrow, Mr. Lai Mohammed, and all stakeholders to this occasion. I look forward to the communique that will evolve from it, knowing that it will help to chart the way towards the actualization of the ultimate goal of advertising in Nigeria and the world at large. I thank you for listening. God bless you all.
Thank you very much, sir. A job well done. Mr. Adeshegun Ogundeji, reading the speech of His Excellency, the Governor of Lagos State, Mr. Babajide Sanwo-Olu. All of this, actually, it's a preamble to the main business of which I must say Mr. Akomo already, kick-started. We also have some other speakers on the matter here. The next is Mr. Niyi Yusuf, Managing Partner of Veraki Africa. He's here with us. Still speaking to that theme of the New World Order, technology as a game changer. Later in the day, Mr. Yusuf will join us in a second. Later in the day, we're going to have our panelists, based on all this very illuminating, very profound directioning by our speakers. Those panelists are, I believe they are here already, but let me introduce them. Mr. Kelechi Mosu, Managing Director, TBWR, is here with us. Mr. Lanre Adisa, Chairman, of Noaza Group. Mr. Demola Olusumade, no, I'm not going to name it. I and Demola have a joke, a private joke about the name of his company. So I'm going to leave that out now. And Esosa Osariede, is Esosa here? Where is Esosa, please? Okay, yes. Thank you very much. So I just want to alert you guys that we expect you down the line to tear this apart and explain it to us. When we are listening to these very smart people, I speak about Olu. Olu has been part of our business. We know him. Mr. David Okeme has always been around our business also. And of course, Mr. Ni Yusuf, very smart people. We are not sure we can understand them directly, so we have prepared these panelists. We have given them the task of, we will be listening or pretending to listen and hoping that at the end of the day, what we don't understand, our panelists in discussing the matter will make it easier. Let's please welcome Mr. Ni Yusuf of Varaki, Africa. How you know a technology person is, as he's coming, he's only holding his phone. No paper and biro like me, nothing. Welcome, sir.
Thank you. Good afternoon, and all protocols observed. And thank you for the opportunity to be here today in Ekwe to share my thoughts. I must confess, I don't know a lot about the industry. I used to be a technology guy, and then I became a business person. But I will share my thoughts around what I've seen in terms of how I think technology has upended the industry and how technology could further affect the industry. So if you all look back, there have been 4 generations of technology. The first generation were those in the 18th century, and that was really characterized by introduction of mechanical engineering. So we had the machine looms for doing cloth and etc. And then in the 19th century, we got into the second generation of technology driven by electricity. So that was the advent of electrical engineering, and then you could do things much faster. The third generation, driven by the advent of the internet in the 20th century, or the advent of what we call technology. So we used to have big computers. And I tell people that the computer that I used in Ife back then is not, it was quite a big room in White House, but my first cell phone, when Econet came, was much more powerful than that large mainframe computer that we had in Ife. And then that brought us to the 4th generation of computer, which is in the 21st century, and those are driven by digital technologies. And while the first, second, and third generation were focused on the company, the enterprise, and driving efficiency, the 4th generation, it's focused on empowering people and driving innovation. And that's where today we have most of us with some sort of technology in our pocket, those technology being much more powerful and allow us to be much more connected to the rest of the world. And so the 4th generation of technologies are driving empowerment, innovation, and adaptability. And so the hard world or the hard industry itself has been impacted by both the 3rd generation and the 4th generation of technology. And we've seen that in quite a number of ways. We've seen the industry itself responding, moving from face-to-face communication to digital marketing or to communication through other digital platforms. And so technology has made it cheaper, like Olu mentioned, has made it faster, has made it also easier to communicate and to pass messages. But in the same vein, it's also made competition to be fiercer, probably as most of you know. And so it's apt that the industry is looking at technology as a game changer. And I dare say it's a game changer in multiple dimensions. First, in terms of the way you run the business. Second is the profession itself. And third is in the act of communicating. And so technology, to my mind, affects those three areas. And like a business person, I like to start from the way you run the business. So technology should change the way you run your business in terms of automation of your back office, your relationship with customers, how you interact with the customers, how you manage finance, how you manage HR or manage your talents. Technology also has affected the way you, the art of messaging itself and the way you distribute your messages. And of course, it's also impacting the profession. For most of us, we will rather look at the impact of technology from the profession or from the messaging side and less from the way you run the business. But reality is you need to have a sustainable business for you to be playing in the long haul. And so I will encourage us that as we think about this, we also should think of how it's impacting our own back office and the way we run our business. In the textbooks, marketing technology, or what they call MarTech, defines as those technology that affect the way you communicate, the way you advertise, whether it's digital marketing or it's database marketing or email marketing, etc. But I also will extend that definition to include the way you interact with your clients and the way you manage your enterprise. That's the back office of each institution. And we've seen a number of trends in terms of the way technology is shaping the industry or the impact that we've seen. So from consumerism to personalization, as Olu mentioned, and personalization because, again, you want to be able to demonstrate, measure the value of the ROI of any spend on advertisement. But we're also seeing consumers who have less attention and who are also having multiple things distracting them, or multiple options or multiple areas or things of interest. And so it becomes more important to find ways to catch their attention and to find ways to target each consumer. And the response of the industry has also been interesting. You know, you've come up with specific programmatic ad, digital marketing, database marketing, email marketing, in response to the advent of technology and, of course, the trends in terms of the way the consumer or the clients are behaving. Now, the drivers of this technology, at least for us in Africa and in Nigeria specifically, are a few things. First is the advent of social media, and now social media is a bit more pervasive. Then you have mobile computing. The fact that quite a number of us have a mobile phone that's quite powerful. Then there is analytics. Analytics allows us to be able to track the data and get insights. There's cloud computing that Luke talked of. There's also cybersecurity. Cybersecurity is now easier. And so as insecurity increases, we also have gadgets of cybersecurity to attend to those. Internet penetration in Nigeria is impressive. More than 154 million of us have some form of internet devices. And mobile broadband has also, the penetration has also increased. And so more people today, more locations in Nigeria today are covered in some form by mobile computing. In the last few years, we've seen a lot of activities in the venture capital space. And so there's capital to support innovation. There's capital to support experiments that are being done by the young tech entrepreneurs. And some of these are leading to new technology opportunities to use in the advertising industry. And some of those new technologies that are of relevance will be your artificial intelligence, your augmented reality or virtual reality that most of you today are making use of. But the other thing to note in terms of the way technology is evolving is the convergence of technology, media, and entertainment. And which is why a company like MTN has changed its focus from just telecoms to becoming a technology company. Realizing that there is that convergence of media, entertainment, and technology. And as I will share later on, if you look at the top 10 advertising companies globally, 4 of them are not the traditional advert companies. No, 4 of them are technology companies or consulting companies, like Accenture, where I used to work, Deloitte, PwC, and IBM. Those are 4 of the top 10 advert agencies globally, as far as 2021 figures are concerned. And so that convergence provides both an opportunity to players in the industry and a threat, because you could then have new entrants who could be well placed to do more and to optimize more than you can potentially think of. So the impact of technology beyond, to my mind, affects the entire value chain, from the way you craft the message, the way the message is communicated, the way the message is distributed, the way the message is consumed. All of those have been impacted in one form or the other by technology. But technology also does more than that. It affects the way you interact with your clients, the way you interact with your other stakeholders, and of course, the way you enable your own workforce, your own people inside the organization, the way you enable them to be able to work. Technology affects that. And the way you interact with your clients, technology also affects that. So it's not really just about the act of communication, but technology affects the way you run the organization, manage your people, manage your finance, and interact with your clients. And today, like you know, television, radio, print media are no longer the best way to reach the masses. Now it's social media, whether it's Facebook or it's TikTok or it's whatever. Technology platforms now provide a way to reach the masses and to reach them in a more efficient and I would say effective manner. So that's one impact. The second impact, to my mind, that you need to worry about is that anybody and everybody cannot be an advertiser. You know, people can sit in their living room and create a 3-minute video, albeit of varying quality, and they release it, and overnight it's gone viral. And so, gone are the days that you need to be a member of AAAN before you can be an advertiser. You can be a rogue advertiser and do your bit and run. And so, citizens can today use available technology and publish materials and advertise stuffs on the social media. And unlike you that are regulated, these citizens are not regulated. And so one needs to worry about the impact of the unregulated advertiser who may not even be in Nigeria, but whose products or services are being consumed in the country. Amazon, the popular bookshop, online bookshop, today is the 3rd largest advertising company in the world, behind Google and Facebook. And in 2021, Amazon made $31 billion. WPP made $16 billion in the same year. Right? And WPP is the largest ad agency globally. Amazon made $31 billion last year, and coming behind Facebook and Google from his advertising business. And that is only about 6.5% or 7% of the total revenue of Amazon last year. So advert is not a core part of his business, but it's sizable enough to be bigger than the first three ad agencies combined. And so the industry is shifting, and it's a challenge that you and I need to reflect on. Now, the pandemic, the COVID-19 pandemic, as bad as it was or as bad as it is, also has some benefits. And part of the benefit is the accelerated digital transformation. And so many of us today, whether in government or in private sector, are now using technology, have embraced technology more than we did in 2019. We were all locked down for 2-3 months, and so that forced many of us to rethink how we use technology. And that has also led to a lot of digital retail activities, and has led to digital marketing, and has led to non-traditional companies getting into the digital marketing space. And so I'll share a few numbers of the top 10 ad agencies. And so WPP in 2021 made 16.9 billion. Omnicom made 15 billion USD. Publix 12.3, that's the third. Then Accenture is the fourth, 10.3 billion. Interpublic sits with 10.2. Dentsu from Tokyo with 9.6. Then number 7 is Deloitte. Deloitte made 7.9 billion last year in ad. Number 8 is PwC, 6.7 billion. And number 9 is IBM with $5.6 billion. And so number 4, number 7, number 8, number 9 are all technology companies. And so what has happened in other industries, where Apple today leads music, Apple leads telecoms, mobile phones, we begin to, I think we may also see that in the hard industry, where the leading ones may not be the traditional companies. And I think it's not a matter of if, but when. So the question is, what can you do to reinvent yourself and to be successful in this world that will soon change? First is for you to just understand that this will happen. And so don't doubt it. Accept it and find a way to benefit from the change. And second is to start with understanding what would be your own strategy. How would you use technology in this space? And what would be the roadmap of how you want to play? Then make sure you align your products and services with your channels, with the consumers, and all of them driven by technology. And to do this, you must create and deliberately develop a digital-first culture within the company. So you must develop a digital-first culture within the company. So technology should be first. Digital should be first, even as we think of other things that we want to do. And leadership must walk the talk. Leadership must deploy resources, both capital and leadership's time. If a leadership's time and attention is probably much more even important than capital. If technology is important to you, then you must devote time, attention, your own time and your own attention to it. And do not leave it to the technology guy. Every business should ultimately become a technology business. And so you must spend quality leadership time thinking about technology and promoting the use of technology and promoting a digital-first culture within your own organization. And part of leadership involvement is also to provide clarity about your mission and the role that technology will play to get you into the final position. Don't bet the entire house. So have a few use cases that you use to test, and be ready to accept a few failures before you strike gold. Invest in people, and especially young people, because sometimes it's difficult to teach old people new tricks, but invest in the young digital natives and get them to also provide reverse mentoring. So as the elders are teaching them the art of advertising, they too can be teaching the elders the art of technology. And so both parties will stand to gain. Recognize those who walk in the right direction and quickly caution those who are taking you back in the wrong direction. And like Bill Gates said, sometimes in the past, that the world needs banking, but the world does not need banks or bankers. We can reflect on that for advertising. But I think what the world will continue to need advertisers that stay relevant and that make themselves align with trends. And so you must learn to be fast follower. For those who are willing to take the risk, you can be fast adopter. But I would say for those of us in Africa, we really can be fast followers because we don't have enough resources to test too many ideas. But once we see the right ones, we must quickly adapt and quickly follow it. We must lay the right foundation for innovation, for testing, and for continuous improvement. Because technology changes dynamically. And what was useful yesterday may no longer be useful or appropriate tomorrow. And so the lifespan of investment in technology is not 10 years. We're talking 2 years, 3 years. The same way you change your cell phones regularly, the same way you must continue to invest in technology on an ongoing basis. And lastly, you must be willing to unlearn the old mindset, to learn new things, and to relearn and be adaptive and be able to reinvent yourself. And if you do this, the chances are that you'll be able to spot the trend, reinvent yourself, and be relevant in a world where technology changes everything. Thank you. I wish you successful sessions, and I hope that when we look at the top 10 league in 10 years, some of the names here will still be on that league. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Ni Yusuf. I expect there will be questions and comments. Someone said yes. And please let me encourage our student delegates to also feel free to ask any questions. What you just need to do is raise up your hands and we'll get a mic to you. And please, I think Mr. Yusuf's presentation raises a few questions. And I expect that our panelists will do justice to it. But before then, if we have any direct questions for him, please indicate so that we can get a mic to you. Does anyone have a question? Anyone seeking some clarity? Okay, no? So we'll wait for our panelists. Thank you once more. Please, a round of applause once more for Mr. Yusuf. I believe you're still with us. so that when the panelists get here, perhaps they will have questions. Our final speaker is also the first speaker to get here. And so he has the obligation, if I might use that, to bring in some of the answers to the questions raised earlier. Please, a round of applause, delegates, for Mr. David Okeme, Executive Director at System Specs.
I have a PowerPoint slide or set of slides. Can we set that up? Meanwhile, very good afternoon to us all. I must thank AAAN for this opportunity. And the next 20 minutes or so, I'm going to share with us, starting with some piece of good news, right? Piece of good news. I'm happy I'm coming after Olu Akomu and Mr. Yusuf. So I'm not going to repeat all that they've said. It's usually a smart way of dodging where there are gaps in your presentation. So today I'll be talking to us about technology disruption and the advertising agency business. And because, yeah, page 1. Next page. So I have an agenda, and it's basically 4 things we're going to discuss. The first one is what I call good old days, good days, right? We are going to be talking about the new world. We're going to be talking about navigating the new world, and certainly spend a bit of time looking at my thoughts about a response model and how you may decide to take the next steps. And a lot of what I'm going to be saying will be more out of my experience, being that I started my career on what typically will be called the client side. So 24 years with Unilever, and I think the last 6 years or so in that phase, I spent as marketing director of Unilever in Nigeria. So I have a lot to share from the old, and because I've spent another 6-7 years now in technology, I think there are some insights again that I believe, I'm able to share this afternoon. And by the time we combine both, I think you have a winning formula going forward. And that's why I'm saying I want to look at it from the perspective of the good news that this interaction is going to bring and the freshness, hopefully, it will bring to our businesses. Next slide. So because of loyalty, because, again, I come from the old school, I want to start from sharing with us from this famous book that Unilever created over many, many years ago, titled Unilever Plan for Great Advertising. And the message from that I want to share is in the second paragraph, which says the purpose of great advertising is to produce sales. So that's old school thinking. I think it's still very relevant even in the new world. And we're going to see how that is what gives us comfort. That in spite of all that is happening around us, in spite of the changes, in spite of the statistics and all you've seen, that reality will continue to be there. And that guarantees that we have a business, and we have a business into the future. It is our behavior and how we move forward that will determine whether we thrive within these changes or not. So old school, new school, business framework, advertising sits at a very, very strong part of the business model, and it's not going to change. Next slide. So again, 2 extracts from the book, just for us to get into the mindset of discussing advertising. So the book says we begin at the end with the consumer, the person whose loyalty we have to earn. The consumer makes the final judgment on the advertising. He, she might say to the advertiser, I don't have much time, right? A lot of other people are trying to catch my attention. Why should I listen to you? What are you trying to tell me? What's in it for me? Why should I? So all this is saying is that advertising needs to be able to move the consumer. Next slide, next slide. It's about getting an idea about a brand into a consumer's head, an idea which will move him. So ultimately, it's about closing a sale. Remember what we said earlier in the first page? Advertising is about making a sale. It's about growth. And wherever there is a need for anything to be sold, advertising will continue to be relevant. Next slide. So Unilever went ahead to create a set of principles, very, very famous in those early days. They are called UPGA principles, and there are 10 of them. That's how important advertising is to the business model. And that's how important Unilever as an organization took advertising. Over these many years, these principles are like framed in gold, and they remain the same. They are not going to change. So it says advertising must concentrate on one big idea. Advertising, must discriminate a brand from its competitors. Advertising must involve the target consumer. It must develop a relationship with the consumer. It must be credible. It must be simple and clear. It must integrate a brand name with a central idea, takes full advantage of each medium, must be campaignable, and must build a brand personality. So every marketeer, every brand manager, every brand custodian or whatever, within this framework was trained to look at advertising, a good piece of advertising, as one that you can pull out this set of principles. So I would say these are classical stuff we've gone through, foundational skills, and therefore they are things that we must hold very dear even as we move forward. So you will say old school stuff, but it's going to be very relevant even as we move forward. Next step, next slide. Now we're moving into a new reality, which is what we heard a lot about this morning. Olu started talking about it, and Mr. Yusuf also built on it. We're now in an environment where we have what I call software as a service models, right? Software as a service means you do not have to invest in any infrastructure to be able to go to market. This is what used to be known as pay-as-you-go. So in your house now, you can hook onto a platform, right, and be in the market the next day, and you only start to pay as you sell. What has this thing done? It has democratized the market for everybody. In the past, it's only organizations like Unilever that could invest in technology, servers, applications, etc. Today, with software as a service, everybody, and I tell you everybody, today you can actually go to market with a technology product because the models are right there in the cloud. So I think Olu spoke about cloud computing. Infrastructure is just there. In 5 minutes, you can buy into an application, you set up, and the next minute you start running. Big data. So this is one area where we would have a bit of conversation later in the day. I got into system specs, and one of the first projects that I worked on was, how do we transform salary data, right, into a commercially viable business model for the company. So we have a platform called Human Manager that has been there for many years and is used to run payroll. So over these many years, you have data that is there, and we were able to establish within it the section that we call permissible data. Data that consumers, the owners, would allow us to use to transform into products for their own benefits. So what we did today, if you go to Access Bank and you say you want to take a payday loan, I want to take 5,000 naira. You send that request to a short code. Immediately, Access will route that request to me, right, my server, and say, check within this universe. Do you know Mr. Kelechi? Right? I would immediately return back to Access to say, I know Kelechi, he's with TBWA, he's the MD, blah, 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 and by the way, this is what I know about his financial whatever. And within seconds, Access Bank is able to take a decision to approve that loan without any documentation, right? No documentation. And because his salary is also paid through my platform, he doesn't need to have an account with Access for Access to give that money to him, right? He has an account, maybe GT. But through technology, the coming together of technology and data has enabled the industry to be able to give such loans with zero risk, because I am able to also collect that money and give back to Access Bank because I have access to his salary, right? Today, Access Bank gives about $1 billion a day on that service. That is data that hitherto was static and dead, technically. That's how the power that we have when you connect technology to big data, you can create all sorts of possibilities. So potentially, I'm sure we've been hearing about open banking, right? There is the move and the drive to say, open up the data on, account holders. Get them to give permission for them to be used, and then use it to create products for them. So that's one area where there's a lot of opportunities, and a lot of people are gearing up to see how they can commercialize those data sources. So big data is what they call the new crude, right? The new gold. And a lot of it is going to happen. And within the agency world, I believe there's a lot of data that is sitting static somewhere that you can think around, how do I turn this around to become another strong income line for the agency? So again, we know about publishers, so that's not platforms, like I said earlier, platforms are, so we have, let's say, Remitter for us is a platform. It's a payment platform. So a platform enables anybody who wants to connect into it to be able to connect and consume the services, right? So now you have a lot of platforms that also enables you the ease to get into the consuming technology services. One area where there's a lot of exciting developments that I have seen personally. Who here views, is it Reels? When you go to go to Facebook or some of these other platforms. We do, right? See, a lot is happening in that space. A lot. I mean, one of the, let me just remember one very funny ones I viewed recently. Who viewed this one that said, you are a caterer, you are not God? Who saw that? You did. I thought that was a fantastic piece of work that went viral in quotes, but I didn't see brands really taking opportunity there. It would have been nice to see Knorr as a brand, you know, jumping into that and saying, how do we make this bigger and bigger and bigger? So what I'm trying to say is that there's a lot of talent, a lot of young people who have been empowered because of the tools that are now freely available. And they are producing content that I think we as agencies should think about how do we leverage this and direct it to the right use or the right purpose, which is about growing, ensuring that there is a sale and ensuring that there is growth. And about enablers, again, we know connectivity is becoming, you know, penetration is becoming bigger and bigger and bigger. I mean, it was good to hear what the representative of the governor said. The governor is doing, laying, you know, fiber and all of those. So as these kind of things happen, the enabling power for the kind of unleashing of the potentials of Nigerians and these young people continues to increase. So also is the availability, because prices are coming down. I don't know what the new reality is with the exchange rate, but prices for smartphones had been going down progressively over time. So penetration is going up. And as many of these tools are available, then the people are empowered to create stuff for themselves. Price of data is also going, I mean, now there are all sort of promotions, so the price of data is going up. So the enablers are there, and therefore the disruption has only started and it will accelerate. Next slide. So again, TikTok. This is one of the biggest sensations, you know, in the channel area in the world, right? 1 billion users per month, and I think last year was the highest downloaded, you know, application globally. It's growing in a way that even the Americans are a bit nervous at the way it's going, etc. And what does this do? I mean, while preparing for this, I saw what it says here under TikTok. It said, the little one who became big, right? So that speaks to the ambition and possibly, not even possibly, the kind of growth they have demonstrated. This is going to be one of those things that will shake the world of marketing and advertising in the days to come. So I lifted this quote from somewhere. It says, you may not understand TikTok, but you better understand TikTok because of the power that is in there. And what you need to do is if you look at the tools that are available, what you can do if you go into this application, that tells us the power, you know, of disruption that this have. So we're now going to how navigating this new world. Next slide. You know, with consumers, a lot is happening. A lot is happening. I mean, in the second point, they were saying advertising in quotes from the way we used to know it. What you hear now is more about engagement, you know. How do you involve the consumer in the messaging? Because the consumers are empowered now. They can create their own stuff. They have access to review your claims. So whatever claim you make today, they quickly go to Google and they can confirm whether what you're saying is true or false. You know, they have access to reviews, brand reviews. So now, you know, word of mouth has taken another dimension. So for them, I want to take a decision. Let me see what users are saying about the experience, etc. So again, they are becoming very socially minded. So things like, I'm only going to buy brands that have a purpose, is becoming bigger. It's becoming bigger. You know, you'll be amazed at how young people will even in terms of employment now, recruitment, you go into interviews now, and some people will tell you, look, I want to see your CSR, your environmental impact, and all of those things. So they're becoming very, very social, and therefore their needs are changing very fast. Next slide. That manufacturers now are in a race to really understand, you know, really understand these consumers and those changes, and therefore see how they can respond to it. So Olu said earlier about Unilever changing the role of CMO to Chief Digital and Commercial Manager. Again, this is a typical way of responding to the changes that they're seeing in the market. I'm saying here, marketing losing credibility. That is true. Do we agree? Within organizations, do we agree or disagree? Are we seeing that? So, see, when I was marketing director at Unilever, it was what we used to call then a marketing-led organization. Technically, you were seen as the most senior, in quotes, director on the board. In terms of, you know, after the MD, maybe MD gives opening remarks, then the marketing director will take over, drive conversations around the business model. Are we making progress? Are we not? You know, and things like that. And you had a lot of influence in terms of how money is spent within the organization, because the profit was also something that was your responsibility, you know. But progressively, that started changing. You started having, first, a unit called trade marketing was created out of sales, which sort of, you know, takes some of the traditional marketing roles into a trade environment. And what did that do? It now created some kind of fragmentation. So your role now, you've lost maybe two also to that. And over time, the sales function became or started getting very empowered. Very, very empowered. So between sales, what you call traditional sales and trade marketing, they started, again, taking out of the responsibilities that typically the marketing director will sit on. And the same way the budgets were moving, right? The budgets were moving. So we're getting into points now where because of, again, digital marketing came into being, you had, you know, data smart people now sitting down and coming and sharing data and sharing all sort of, you know. So the traditional role of the marketing director started getting diluted, right? And it's so bad now that globally, I was referring to a McKinsey study that says CEOs, 70% of CEOs will tell you, leave those guys, right? They only talk grammar and they spend money. So if the marketing lead starts to have credibility crisis, there are huge implications for agencies, because at the end of the day, they are your principal customer within the business. So therefore, that is there, and it's also a reflection of the kind of transformation that is going, you know, in the consumer space and also in the market. Yeah, so transparency, again, like I said, I mean, I've touched a lot of this already in the course of the conversation. But the last part of it, which talks about, you know, immersive experiences, So now there's a whole lot of shift in budgets. I mean, I was reading recently that metaverse, which we talk about here, has come to stay. And actually, Unilever has done at least 3 or 4 activations there already. Because the reality is there's been a shift, and it will accelerate. As we go into 5G, and we're able to use that to enable IoTs and all of those, you're going to see a lot of activities and a lot of budgets moving into that space. So the manufacturers, certainly the core advertisers, are going through this whole, navigation and shift in their strategies to make sure that they are in sync with the developments that they see all around them. The retail is one big space where a lot is happening around the world, which I don't see happening here yet. A lot is happening. So now, within the retail space, next slide, there's a lot happening online. So I've heard about COVID here today. The truth is, some of those changes that happen with COVID are irreversible, right? Working from home has come to stay. It's not going to change. We may want to force it. I mean, some organizations are trying to force people back to work. But what you see, I was at KPMG the other day, and one of the partners was telling me that in one week, when they said everybody come back to work, they had like resignations that they've never seen before, right? So, and globally, that's the reality. People have, adjusted to that reality. But that has implications in the fact that the lifestyles of people have changed or are changing, right? Some people are more homebound now because they've had to make some investments in making the home, comfortable for leisure and for work, And in that context, a lot of e-commerce kind of things are happening, and that would accelerate. That won't change. So e-commerce is happening, but technology is playing a very big role. Go to next slide. Next slide. And what I've done here is a picture of a shop, and this has been broken down into the activities that happen in a shop, for instance, and how technology is focusing in different aspects of, the purchase cycle and enabling transactions. So you go to some places now, they are what I call conversational commerce. At the till, you are having some kind of live interaction, right? You've seen things like transformation even in the payment system. You have things like you can use now maybe cards, you can use now USSD, you can use all sort of. These are all steps being taken to enrich the experience of the consumers in a way that it adds to their brand experience and ultimately branding. So this is one place where 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So what we are saying is, in a retail environment, there are at least 12 to 13 opportunities to create disruptive technology, right? It's happened already, or it's happening already, but none of this is happening in our environment yet. And that's why I say I bring a lot of good news, because these are fertile grounds for us to work on and create value. And therefore, to future-proof the agency, I have this. Next slide, next. This model here. To say that the agency business has 4 possible steps to take in terms of moving forward. And these 4 are dependent on, the extent of disruption that you think you face, right? And then the extent of which this disruption can affect your business. So the 4 steps may be, 1, you need to make a shift in your business model. You need to shape a whole new business. You can sustain your business and restore your operations. You can restructure your company or your industry. So these are 4, again, like I said, not exhaustive, but these are 4 possible ways in which you can move forward in the midst of all of these changes that is happening around us. Next slide. So I have tried to distill this into 3 headers. Certainly, the agency business cannot continue to exist as it is. We must accept that reality, that if you don't want to change, that is a sure way to extinction, right? So these are 6 suggestions. I think digital transformation is a must. So like Mr. Yusuf said earlier, it's not just about creating the message and sharing the message. It's about your business model itself, right? Your internal operations. What's the extent of automation that you have in your business? Automation from let's say your finance, let's say your payroll system, let's say your tracking system, your scheduling, your tracking, your release processes. All of these processes that you have must be automated such that even as you're here, you are making decisions back home, right? You are here approving creatives to go to a client, for instance. You don't have to be there for that to happen. So if you do that, like Olu said earlier, you're going to reduce your cost by a factor that is not less than 35%. And therefore, is it conversely, I don't know whether it's the right word, you are going to unlock growth by a minimum of 35% if you do basic automation. So that is a mandatory for you to really future-proof your business. Number 2, I think some level of consolidation may have to happen. And consolidation can happen in several ways. It may not be necessarily takeover mergers or whatever. But one of the things I've learned since I went into technology is the kind of partnership framework that exists in technology was something strange. I found strange when I joined. Because in the old model, as Unilever then, I profited from if a PZ has a problem, a logistic problem, right? They run out of materials and you're saying, look, thank God, for now, let me move forward, right? Let me gain as much of the market shares as possible. But in the technology side, what I realized is there is there's a framework that ensures that we work together, right? And there is also an earning model that ensures that as the money is coming, it's distributed as per, as power inputs into the process. So if I want to create a radio commercial, for instance, I can work with agency A, who will do the script, agency B, that will do the voice, right? Maybe agency C that would, add something in. But all of these 3 come together, create one product. I think the industry needs to move in that. I understand it's happening already, maybe not in a very structured way, but one of the things I learned this morning, and I won't tell you who said that to me. One of the things I was told is, Steve Babaeko is a great president because sometimes he gets briefs and he'll say, I'm busy, so please, this agency take. if that is happening, I think is something we need to clap hands for him for. Can we do that? So, and if it's not happening yet, then it must happen. But like I said, I heard about that here, you know. So I think the agency needs to think about how do we combine resources in a way that we move, you know, the whole industry up to the required, you know, standard where we can now create sustainability in terms of, you know, the pie that is being built is being baked, and then we can then each person have a good share of it. Reshape agency with a focus on. So here, what I'm trying to say here is, you see what we said earlier, the very first sentence on the OPGA plan is that advertising must drive or create a sale, right? So I have seen too many corporates recently struggling with growth, especially in manufacturing. So you see growth levels of 5%, 4%, 10%, 15%, or everywhere is 20%. When you adjust for constant money, it is constant money. We used to, in Unilever, we used to use euro as the basis of measuring value creation. So you say, I've done 500 billion turnover this year. You adjust it by the exchange rate, right? So when you do that for many businesses, how many have had real growth in this economy? Go and check it. So again, I think we need to now think really hard. How do we ensure that we do things that create growth for the organizations? I was also speaking to my friend while here before this to say, as an agency, you should also start thinking about what I said earlier about big data. That there is a salary data sitting somewhere. How do I, with the purpose to say, I want to maximize value for salary earners, how do I create a program that ensures that I am able to create a matching between their demand and whatever service they are getting in a way that creates a win-win, right? In a way that creates a win-win. How do I ensure that these 2, 3, 4, 5 million people in Nigeria who earn a salary every 30 days get access to the basket of groceries that they need monthly in a way that it comes to them, they can see value because it comes to them at a discount, right? Your client gets value because you have given him access to a captive market and things like that. So these are the kind of models of activities that we can start thinking about, you know, in a way that it creates value for both sides. Remember what Olu said earlier, technology drives cost down. And when you drive cost down, you're already creating value. And then your own compensation will come from that value that you're creating, right? And then the most important piece in all of this is actually us in this room. We're the ones who are at risk of extinction in these conversations we're having. Do we agree? Yeah. Because I saw it happen within Unilever. At a certain point, from a certain level up, had to go because they were no longer fit for the kind of environment that technology had unleashed on the business. Therefore, please take this very seriously. You must do a self-assessment, right? Again, on the side there, I heard one of us say he's trying to understand TikTok, Instagram, Pinterest, all of those things, from a point of understanding, even though, but you must do a quick skills assessment. You must understand where your gaps are. You must start upskilling quickly, right? Because, where your client is as educated in an area as you are, then you must really be up and doing to be able to do that. You must invest and get educated, right? Yourself. You must, educate your teams, put a training budget to do that. And then finally, I'm saying you can ask for help, right? Mentorships. So I'm saying personally, I can help in areas where, if you think you need help, or if you think my capability can be of help to you, my numbers are there, I'm willing to help. Because I understand the traditional model, and I see what is happening, and I'm able to advise how you can combine this to move forward. So again, like I said, that's the value that I give for, back for inviting me to be here today. Because, okay, finally. Because what is coming, right, is a deluge. It's something that we have not planned for. And it has a bigger implication for advertising. 5G means that some of these things we are seeing will accelerate. Metaverse, like I said, is here. Even children now. A friend was telling me yesterday, 8-year-old daughter already has a space in the metaverse. She's a mom there. She has a child she takes to school. She's trying to set up a payment system in the metaverse. 8-year-old girl in Lagos. So it's real, and we must get ready for it. Because at the end of the day, advertising is not going to go away. It's going to be useful. It's going to be relevant because it's a foundational part of any business model. What is threatened is our individual businesses and ultimately ourselves. So thank you very much for this opportunity, and all the best with your conference.
Thank you very much, Mr. David Okeme, for what has been a very interesting lecture. His own wasn't just he didn't just speak to us, he lectured us. And once more, please a round of applause for him, especially as he has offered help